Welcome to the EZMWeb video demo and training presentation. In this video, we will demonstrate all of the features of EZMWeb. Following this short overview, the full presentation of the features of EZMWeb will begin. As you saw from the initial menu, this video is fully indexed, and if you wish only to review certain features of EZMWeb, or if you want to come back to specific features later, simply click on the item you wish to see in the starting menu, and that portion of this video will play rather than the entire presentation. EZMWeb is a true internet application that enables you, your staff, or your customers or tenants to request, track, and control maintenance simply by logging on to your internet EZMWeb account from anywhere in the world. EZMWeb contains all of the features of Linkit Software's award-winning, market-proven Windows maintenance program called Easy Maintenance Software. Easy Maintenance Software, as a network program, has hundreds of installations with thousands of users in organizations ranging from Fortune 500 firms to companies with just a handful of pieces of equipment or vehicles. EZMWeb brings all of Easy Maintenance Software's capabilities to the Internet, plus special web-only features. With EZMWeb, using the Internet, you can schedule, track, and control maintenance for any kind of equipment and any type of vehicle, along with complete inventory control and tracking. In addition to these features, EZMWeb, the Internet version of Easy Maintenance Software, offers special capabilities which you can choose to use or not use depending upon the needs of your business. EZMWeb can accommodate your needs. Whether you have one location and need only one central database to track all of your equipment and vehicle maintenance, or if you have multiple locations and wish each location to have its own separate maintenance program, EZMWeb has an internet account that will work for you. If you have multiple locations, your EZMWeb account will allow you to oversee and pull reports on each individual location using the Internet, or to pull consolidated reports for all of your location information combined. With EZMWeb, you can not only use the Internet to control all of your maintenance and inventory, but if you wish, you can allow customers, employees, or tenants to submit maintenance requests and check the status of those requests online using your EZMWeb account. If your business uses outside vendors to perform maintenance work for your company or for your customers, EZMWeb allows you to set up a list of outside maintenance vendors or subcontractors and forward maintenance work orders to them. EZMWeb also sends email alerts when work orders are assigned. Those vendors receive a special password which they use to complete and close out your work orders and notify you the work has been completed. To add to your options, if you use outside vendors or subcontractors, they can even submit an invoice to you through EZMWeb. If your business has customers for whom you do maintenance work, you can even mark up vendor invoices through EZMWeb and forward them to your customers. If you do perform maintenance work for outside customers but you don't use vendors or subcontractors, you can create a direct customer invoice through EZMWeb. If you have customers for whom you perform maintenance work and you use QuickBooks, EZMWeb even has an optional link to QuickBooks, so your invoice information goes right into your accounting program. EZMWeb can be set for any currency exchange rate, multiple taxes, and both United States and non-United States addresses, phone numbers, and zip codes. No matter where you are located or what kind of maintenance you need to control and track or your invoice requirements, EZMWeb is ready to go to work for you. We are now ready to begin, and you can choose which areas of this video to review. Following this introduction, we will cover setting preferences. This video will then automatically move into how to set up and use special passwords for the submission of maintenance requests by outside employees, customers, or tenants, and the checking of the status of those requests online. This will be followed by how to set up and utilize outside vendors and subcontractors who perform maintenance work and how invoicing works in EZMWeb. Once these items are covered, we will go through all of EZMWeb's features for the scheduling, tracking, and controlling of maintenance for any type of equipment or any type of vehicle, and how to track and control all inventory. If you do not use outside vendors for maintenance work, if you do not perform maintenance work for customers and you're not concerned with invoicing, we would suggest that after you review the setting of preferences immediately following, you skip to the sections which present EZMWeb's equipment maintenance capabilities, vehicle maintenance capabilities, and inventory control. Thank you, and welcome to EZMWeb, your internet tool for the tracking, scheduling, and control of all equipment maintenance, vehicle maintenance, and inventory management. EZMWeb application includes a preferences section that allows you to choose, among many other things, your preferred currency, the format in which dates are displayed, and the amount of digits after the decimal point to be displayed for certain kinds of data items. The preference features allows the user to set the operation of the program in many areas to suit their needs. First, locate the menu on the left side navigation bar that says Subscription, and click the small arrow on the right side of the bar. Clicking on the arrow will make two options appear below the bar. Click on Preferences. You then will be taken to the Preferences screen. At this screen, you can see all of the different settings available to you to adjust the operation of EZMWeb to suit your needs. We'll discuss each of these settings one by one. The first setting we see is address and phone format, for which there are two options, USA and International. If your company is based in the United States, simply leave USA selected. Selecting International allows users to enter much longer phone numbers and addresses with letters in the zip code. To select the option you desire, mark the circle next to the desired option by clicking in it. The next setting is date format. This setting affects the display of dates throughout the application. Depending on the option you select, dates will be displayed with the year followed by the month, then the date, with the month followed by the day, then the year, or with the day followed by the month, then the year. Again, to select the option you desire, mark the circle next to the desired option by clicking in it. The Records Grids setting lets you specify how many items per page will show on the various lists throughout the EZMWeb application, such as lists of equipment, inventory items, scheduled maintenance, and so on. For example, if you set Records Grids to 15, a maximum of 15 items will be displayed per page. If you would like to view the next 15 items, you will have to select the next page, and for the next 15 items, the page after that, and so on. Next, we see the setting for inventory tracking. Selecting None means EZMWeb will not track any inventory use. Selecting Price List Only means EZMWeb will track and record inventory prices but not inventory use. Selecting Full means EZMWeb will track and record all inventory prices and transactions, including when a piece of inventory is used in a work order. Next is the setting for decimal places for inventory cost and price. This setting allows you to specify how many decimal places the program will keep track of in the price for inventory items. To change this setting, click on the box containing the value and type in the desired value. Next, we see the setting for decimal places for quantity. This allows you to specify how many decimal places the program will keep track of in the quantity for inventory items. For example, if you want EZMWeb to track inventory quantities to the nearest tenth, you would put a 1 in this box. The program would then display and store quantities for inventory items such as 1.2 quarts of oil or 15.0 bearings. Next is the setting for decimal places for hours of equipment usage. This setting allows you to specify how many decimal places the program will keep track of for hours of equipment use. For example, if you want EZMWeb to keep track of hours of equipment usage to the nearest thousandth, you would put a 3 in this box. And we also have a setting for decimal places for hours of vehicle usage. Setting decimal places for hours of vehicle usage is particularly helpful if you're using EZMaintenance to track, for example, airplane maintenance. This setting works similarly to the decimal places for equipment hours usage, but it applies to vehicle usage instead of equipment usage. Now we come to the currency setting. This setting allows you to specify what currency you would like all the monetary amounts to be displayed in throughout EZMaintenanceWeb. To select your desired currency, click on the arrow on the right-hand side of the box displaying the currently selected currency to display a small menu showing the available currencies. Then click on the desired currency. Choosing a currency name alone will not accomplish the desired currency conversion. If you enter a value into the conversion rate box, all of the monetary values you have stored in the program, such as those for inventory item costs, will be converted to the new currency using the value you entered into the conversion rate box. For example, if you want to change the currency in which you are working to British pounds and the current exchange rate is 0.574146 pounds for each dollar, you would select GBP from the currency selection box and enter the value 0.574146 in the conversion rate box like this. This brings up an important point. All currency conversion rates you will enter here are relative to $1 US. This means that if later you decide to switch to be working with euros after working with the British pounds, you would not enter a conversion rate for euros to British pounds. Instead, you would enter how many euros are worth $1 US. The next setting we encounter on the Preferences screen is the Alert Status setting. EZMWeb by default will automatically notify you if the scheduled maintenance for a piece of equipment or a vehicle has gone past due. Select the Off option if you'd like to disable this feature of EZMWeb. Next is the Notification setting. EZMWeb enables a vendor or service provider to invoice you for work which they have completed for you. If you would like to be notified via email when a service provider or vendor has created an invoice for you, choose the On option for the notification setting. If you would not like to be notified upon the creation of an invoice by a service provider or vendor, choose Off instead. Next we have the Invoicing by My Users option. If your company does maintenance work for outside customers and you invoice them for the work you do, you have the option to set EZMWeb to prompt your employees to create an invoice every time a work order is completed. Selecting On will notify you and your employees to generate an invoice. Selecting Off will disable these notifications. Then we have the Invoicing by Service Provider setting. When a service provider or vendor closes a work order, EZMWeb can automatically notify the service provider to generate an invoice. Selecting On will notify the service provider to generate an invoice each time they close a work order. Selecting Off will not prompt the service provider to create such an invoice. Finally, we come to the Assigned To setting. This affects the list of users to select from when assigning a work order. For example, you may want to assign all your maintenance to vendors or service providers and not have members of your company displayed on the list of users to select from to assign work orders to, because you will never be assigning maintenance work orders to them. In this instance, you would select Only Service Providers. Or you may select Only Users if you only want members of your company to appear on the list of users to whom you can assign work orders. Once you have made all of the adjustments you wish to the settings in the Preferences section, click on the Save button to submit and save those changes. The My Account area of EZMWeb is the section where a user can view and make changes to the company profile, their personal profile, and their password. The My Account section is located in the left side menu here, and you'll see when you click on it that there are three options within the menu: Company Profile, Edit Profile, and Change Password. To view and make changes to information regarding the company, you'd click on the Company Profile link. This brings up the screen that you see here. You can change the company information such as name, contact, address, fax, and even company logo. These entries apply to the entire company, not the specific user, so it is not likely that this information will need to be changed after the first time it is entered. Not all user levels can access this information since it is vital to the operation of the application. The other two sections, however, are user-specific and will only affect the user that is currently logged in. If a user clicks the Edit Profile link, they will be able to view and edit information that pertains to them, such as their name, login, and designation, as you see here. Lastly, if the viewer wishes to change their password, they can click on this last link here, which will allow them to do so. Remember, user information and password changes only affect the current user. If you need to make changes to other users, this is done from the Users section of the main navigation bar. In addition to providing you with tools that allow you to schedule, track, and control the maintenance of equipment and vehicles, EZMWeb also includes features that allow other members of your company or agents in the field to schedule, track, and control the maintenance of equipment and vehicles, allow your customers or tenants to submit work order requests to you, allow you to send work orders to vendors whom we refer to as service providers in EZMWeb who perform maintenance tasks for you, and allow you to link the application to QuickBooks and invoice customers, tenants, or vendors. Before we can begin doing any of these things, we must first understand the three types of user accounts in EZMWeb: My Users, Customers, and Service Providers. Here we will discuss the function of each of these user accounts and how you can create them. Please note that the Customer and Service Provider user accounts are only available in an EZMWeb Service account. EZMWeb Business accounts do not have Customer and Service Provider features. First, we will discuss what My Users accounts are for and how to create them. My Users accounts are given to any person at your company or agent in the field that needs to be able to log into EZMWeb and schedule, track, and control the maintenance of equipment and vehicles. When you log into EZMWeb, you will have full access to all of the features which are included in your EZMWeb subscription. However, you can also create My Users accounts which restrict users from having access to certain parts of the application. For example, you may want to enable a member of your company to view work orders for equipment, but not allow them from modifying information about your equipment or vehicles which you've entered into the program. Later we will discuss how this can be done by setting the access level for My User accounts. Let's go ahead and create a new My User account. First, we have to locate the bar on the left panel of the screen called Users and click the small arrow on the right part of the bar. Clicking on the arrow will show the three types of users that can be created in EZMWeb. Since we want to create a new My User account right now, click on My Users. By doing so, you will be taken to a screen which shows you the list of My User accounts which you have created so far. Now we'll click the yellow New button at the bottom right of the screen. You will see this screen in which you will enter the details for the new user, such as their first and last name, their email address, the username and password which they will use to log into EZMWeb, their job designation, and their level of access. You'll notice that many of the boxes in which you enter information at this screen, such as first name, last name, and email ID, are marked with a red asterisk. The red asterisk indicates that you must supply some information for that entry to create the new My Users account. First, we will enter the first and last name of the person to whom we are assigning this account. Click inside the box called First Name to place the cursor in the box and type the person's first name. Now, enter the person's last name in the box called Last Name. Now enter the email address of your user in the Email ID box. The email ID is important because this is where EZMWeb will send all information directed to this user. If a user clicks the Forgot Password button on the main login screen to retrieve a lost password, the password will be sent to this address. Also, if you assign a work order to this user, a notification will be sent to the email address you provide here to inform your employee that the work order was assigned to them. In the login box, enter the username with which your new user will log into EZMWeb. It can contain any combination of letters, numbers, or underscores. This username must also be unique, which means that no other username for any type of account may have the username you choose here. If you are prompted to choose a different login name because the one you chose has already been taken, try adding a number to the end of it or using a less common name. Then you must choose a password for your new user, which they will use to log into EZMWeb. Enter the password you choose into the password box. You will also need to confirm the password you have chosen. Re-enter the password you have chosen into the Retype Password box. If you would like, you can also choose a designation to assign to the user you are creating. The designation box is for the designation or job title of the person that user login will be given to. Choosing a designation is optional. Then, choose an access level for the user from the Access Level drop-down menu. Changing the access level will grant or deny access to certain parts of the program for the new My User account you are creating. The 4 different access level types which you can give to a My User account are Sub-Admin, Supervisor, Operator, and Restricted User. We will discuss these in detail in the next section. The last item we need to set for the new user we're creating is status. A user's status is either active or inactive. To select a status for the new user, mark the small circle next to your choice by clicking in it. If a user's status is set to active, that user has the ability to log into EZMWeb, and if their status is inactive, they are unable to log into EZMWeb. This option lets you disable a user's ability to log into the application without having to actually delete the user account you've created for them. This means that if you want them to have the ability to log into the application at some point in the future, you can do this simply by setting their status from inactive to active. For example, if you wish to create an account for a new user but do not want them to have immediate access to it, you should select the inactive option upon creating the account and change it later when you want the user to have access to EZMWeb. Once you have entered all the information for the user you are creating, click on the Save button to add the new user to the system. You will be taken back to the User List screen and you'll see your new user in the list. To change information about a My User account which you've already created, locate the Edit button in the column in the list of My User accounts called Edit. Click on the Edit button for the account whose information you wish to change. This will bring you to the screen where you enter information about the My User account you want to change. Now, locate the box which corresponds with the information about this account which you would like to change. For example, if we want to change the first name of the person to whom this account is assigned, we would first locate the box called First Name. Then click inside the box and use the backspace or delete keys on your keyboard to remove the name that is currently in there. Once you remove the old name, type in the new first name for the account. However, if you'd like to change the password for this account, bear in mind that you will have to re-enter the new password in both the password box and the Retype Password box. Once you have made all of the changes you desire, click on the Save button to confirm those changes. You can also delete My User accounts you have created. At the list of My User accounts, locate the My User account you wish to delete. Once you've located that My User account, look to the far right-hand side of the list under the Delete column to find the button with an X in it that matches with that account. Click on that button to delete the account. A message box will then pop up confirming that you wish to delete the account. Click on the OK button in the message box if you are sure you want to delete the account. If you are not sure you want to delete the account, perhaps because you have hit the Delete button by mistake, click on the Cancel button instead. As we mentioned in the previous section where we demonstrated how to create new My Users accounts, you can set up an access level for My User accounts in order to restrict users from having access to sections of EZMWeb. For example, you may want to enable a member of your company to view and submit work orders but not be able to change information about your user accounts. Giving this user the appropriate access level will accomplish this. There are 4 different access level types which you can give to a My User account: Sub-Admin, Supervisor, Operator, and Restricted User. Basically speaking, the Sub-Admin access level gives a user access to all features of the application, but they are not able to create new sub-accounts. The Supervisor access level allows a user to do everything a Sub-Admin can do except create new My User customer and service provider accounts and change account preferences. The operator access level has the same restrictions as a supervisor, but users with this access level are also restricted from assigning and approving work orders and editing details about closed work orders. The restricted user access level enables a user to only view work orders that are assigned to them and make entries in the usage logs for equipment and vehicles. Now that you know how to create My Users accounts so that the employees of your company can log in and access EZMWeb's features, we'll continue on to the other two types of users, customers and service providers. The EZMWeb features covered in this section will be of real value to you if your company has any or all of the following needs. You have customers, outside employees, or tenants who you wish to be able to enter maintenance requests for you via the Internet and then use the Internet to check the status of their maintenance requests. Or if you have any maintenance services performed for your company or your customers by outside vendors. Or using your Internet account on EZMWeb, you would like to be able to invoice your customers for maintenance work performed by your company. Or if you use outside vendors for required maintenance services and you would like those vendors to be able to submit an invoice through EZMWeb to you for work performed. You would also like the option to mark up any invoice submitted to you by a vendor and forward it to your customer. Again, all through your EZMWeb account. If your firm does not have any of these requirements, you'll want to bypass this section and move on to other sections of this demonstration. We'll start with the customer users. Again, in order to see user listings and create new users, you must be logged in as the main subscriber or as a user with a sub-admin access level. Customer users are different from standard account users because they do not have access to the parts of the system involving your company, employees, procedures, or other internal information. The function of customer accounts is to enable the customer to submit requests for work to your company over the Internet. These types of user accounts are typically given to tenants or other people that you do maintenance work for on a regular basis. Creating a customer user account is similar to creating a new My User account. First, locate the bar in the left panel of the screen called Users and click the small arrow on the right part of the bar. Clicking on the arrow will show the three types of users that can be created in EZMWeb. Since we want to create a new customer account, click on Customers. You will be taken to this screen which shows you the list of customer accounts which you've created so far. Now click the yellow New button at the bottom right of your screen. Then you will see this screen in which we will enter the details for the new customer, such as their first and last name, their email address, the username and password which they will use to log into EZMWeb, and their terms. You'll notice that many of the boxes in which you enter information at this screen, such as first name, last name, and email ID, are marked with a red asterisk. The red asterisk indicates that you must supply some information for that entry to create the new customer account. First, we will enter the first and last name of the person to whom we are assigning this account. Click inside the box called First Name to place the cursor in the box and type the person's first name. Then enter the person's last name in the box called Last Name. Now enter the email address of your user in the Email ID box. The email ID is important because this is where EZMWeb will send all information directed to this user. If a user clicks the Retrieve Password button on the customer login screen to retrieve a lost password, the password will be sent to this address. In the login box, enter the username with which your customer will log into EZMWeb. It can contain any combination of letters, numbers, or underscores. This username must also be unique, which means that no other username for any type of account may have the username you choose. If you are prompted to choose a different login name because the one you chose has already been taken, try adding a number to the end of it or using a less common name. And as we will see later, customers do not log in at the same screen that My Users do. Later, we will discuss how customers log in and how their interface for EZMWeb differs from that of what users with My User accounts see. Now you must choose a password for your new customer, which they will use to log into EZMWeb. Enter the password you choose into the password box. You will also need to confirm the password you have chosen, so re-enter the password you have chosen into the retype password box. Then you will also need to select the terms of payment for services which you provide to the customer in the Terms selection box. The last item we need to set for the new user we're creating is status. A user's status is either active or inactive. To select a status for the new user, mark the small circle next to your choice by clicking in it. If the customer status is set to active, that customer has the ability to log into EZMWeb. And if their status is inactive, they are unable to log into EZMWeb. This option lets you disable a customer's ability to log into the application without having to actually delete the user account you've created for them. This means that if you want them to have the ability to log into the application at some point in the future, you can do this by simply setting their status to active at that point. Or if you wish to create an account for a new user but do not want them to have immediate access to it, you can select the inactive option upon creating the account until you are ready to have them go active. Once you have entered all of the data for the customer account you wish to create, hit the Save button. You will be taken back to the customer list screen and you will see your newly created customer account in the list. The login and password that you supplied while creating the new customer can now be used by the customer to gain access to the system. We will show you how and where customers log into the EZMWeb application. To change information about a customer account which you've already created, first look in the customer list for the customer account you want to change. Once you've located that customer, look to the far right-hand side of the list under the Select column to find the circle that matches the customer account. Mark that circle by clicking in it. Now click on the Edit button. Then locate the box which corresponds with the information about this account which you would like to change. For example, if we want to change the first name of the person to whom this account is assigned, we would first locate the box called First Name. Then we'd click inside the box and use the backspace or delete keys on the keyboard to remove the name that is currently there. Once the name has been removed, type in the new first name for the account. However, if you would like to change the password for the account, bear in mind that you'll have to re-enter the new password in both the password box and the retype password box. Once you've made all the changes you desire, click on the Save button to confirm those changes. As stated previously, customers log into a section of the program that is separate from the rest of EZMWeb. In this section of the program, your customers will not have any access to any information about your EZMWeb account. They will only be able to submit work orders and view invoices for maintenance which they have requested. What you see here is the customer's login screen. To log in, your customers will enter their login and password which you assigned to them when you created their account, and click on the Login button as shown here. When customers log into EZMWeb, what they will see will be different from what you, the main user, sees when you log into EZMWeb. The layout is very different and the options available to them are limited to those they need to submit requests for maintenance and view invoices for maintenance which they have requested. At the left of the customer screen there are three categories of options which customers have access to: Contacts, Requests, and Invoice. Clicking on the arrow on the rightmost side of the Contacts bar will reveal two options: Primary Contact and Change Password. Clicking on the Primary Contact will open up the screen at which customers can change their contact information. This is the same screen that the customer sees right after they log into EZMWeb. Clicking Change Password will open the screen at which customers can change the password which you have assigned to them. Clicking on the arrow on the rightmost side of the Request bar will reveal two options: Request List and New Request, which will let your customers manage the request for maintenance. Clicking on Request List will bring the customer to the list of open requests which they've made for maintenance. Clicking on New Request will bring the customer to the screen at which they can submit a new request for maintenance. And clicking on the arrow on the rightmost side of the Invoice bar will reveal two options: Open and Close. Clicking on Open lets the customer view the list of open invoices which have been submitted to them through EZMWeb for work which that customer has requested to be done. Clicking on Closed lets the customer view invoices that have been closed for work they have requested. If you have outside vendors who perform maintenance tasks for you, EZMWeb has features that allow you to create accounts for those vendors and send maintenance requests to them using the Internet and your EZMWeb account. Once you create an account for a vendor, who we refer to as a service provider in EZMWeb, they will be able to view work orders which you have sent to them. They will also be able to send an invoice to you for work that they have completed. Additionally, vendors or service providers log into a section of EZMWeb that is separate from your main account, and they will not have access to any information about your account except the work orders which you have assigned to them. Let's create a new service provider account. First, locate the bar on the left panel of the screen called Users and click the small arrow on the right part of the bar. Clicking on the arrow will make three options appear below the bar. Since we want to create a new service provider right now, click on Service Providers. After you have clicked on Service Providers, you will see the following screen, with the service providers listed whom you have entered into the program previously. Now, click the yellow New button at the bottom right of your screen. Then you will see this screen, in which you will enter the details for the service provider, such as the name they will use to log into EZMWeb, their first and last name, the password for their account, and their email address. You'll notice that many of the boxes in which you enter information at this screen, such as first name, last name, and email ID, are marked with a red asterisk. The red asterisk indicates that you must supply some information for that entry to create the new service provider account. First, we will enter the first and last name of the person to whom we are assigning this account. Click inside the box called First Name to place the cursor in the box and type the person's first name. Now enter the person's last name in the box called Last Name. In the Login ID box, enter the username with which your service provider will log into EZMWeb. It can contain any combination of letters, numbers, or underscores. This username must also be unique, which means that no other username for any type of account may have the username you choose. If you are prompted to choose a different login name because the one you chose has already been taken, try adding a number to the end of it, or using a less common name. Now, enter the email address of your service provider in the Email ID box. The email ID is important because this is where EZMWeb will send all information directed to this user. If a user clicks the Retrieve Password button on the service provider login screen, which we will discuss shortly, to retrieve a lost password, the password will be sent to this address. As with customers, service providers do not log in at the same screen that My Users accounts do. Later, we will discuss how service providers log in and how their interface for EZMWeb differs from that of what users with My User accounts see. Another reason why the email ID is important is because a notification will be sent to the email address you provide here when you assign a work order to this service provider. Now you must choose a password for your new service provider, which they will use to log into EZMWeb. Enter the password you choose into the password box. Next, you'll need to confirm the password you have chosen. Re-enter the password you have chosen into the Retype Password box. Then you will also need to select the terms of payment for services which are provided to you by the service provider here in the Terms Selection box. The last item we need to set for the new user we're creating is status. A user's status is either active or inactive. To select a status for the new user, mark the small circle next to your choice by clicking in it. If the service provider's status is set to active, that service provider has the ability to log into EZMWeb. And if their status is inactive, they are unable to log into EZMWeb. This option lets you disable a service provider's ability to log into the application without having to actually delete the user account you've created for them. This means that if you want them to have the ability to log into EZMWeb at some point in the future, you can do this simply by setting their status to active at that point. Or if you wish to create an account for a new user but do not want them to have immediate access to it, you should select the inactive option upon creating the account and change it to active when you want them to have access. Next, click the Save button. Now you will have created an account for a service provider in EZMWeb. As stated previously, vendors or service providers log into a section of the program that is separate from the rest of EZMWeb, and the only information about your account that they have access to is the work orders which you have assigned to them. This is the Service Provider Login screen. To log in, your service providers will enter their username and password which you have assigned to them and click on the Login button as shown here. Just as with customers, when service providers log into EZMWeb, what they see will be quite different from what you, the main user, sees when you log into EZMWeb. As you can see here, to the left of the screen are the three categories of options that are available to service providers: Contacts, work orders, and invoices. Clicking on the arrow on the rightmost part of the alert bar brings down two options: equipment and vehicle. The alert section allows a service provider to view whether work orders which have been assigned to them for either equipment or vehicles are due today or overdue. Clicking on equipment displays all work orders that are overdue and due today for equipment, and clicking on vehicle displays all work orders that are overdue and due today for vehicles. Clicking on the arrow on the rightmost part of the context bar brings down two options: primary contact and change password. Clicking on primary contact will open up the screen at which the customer can change their contact information. This is the same screen that the service provider sees right after they log into EZMWeb. Clicking change password will open the screen at which service providers can change the password which you have assigned to them. Now, clicking on the arrow on the rightmost part of the work orders bar brings down two options available to service providers for dealing with work orders which you have assigned to them. Clicking on work orders brings up this screen in which your service provider can view the list of work orders which you have assigned to them. Clicking on work order history brings up another screen in which service providers can view a history of work orders which have been assigned to them and which are now closed. Clicking on the arrow on the rightmost part of the invoice bar brings down the four options available to service providers for managing contract information. Clicking on Pending Invoice displays the list of closed work orders for which invoices need to be created. Here the service provider can generate an invoice for any of the displayed work orders by clicking on the corresponding button in the Generate Invoice column. Next, clicking on Open Invoice displays the list of open invoices. Clicking on Invoice to Subscriber displays the list of invoices which the service provider has submitted to the main account owner of EZMWeb. And clicking on Closed Invoice displays the list of closed invoices for work which the service provider has done for the main account owner and invoiced to them. Now we will discuss how to submit work orders to service providers in EZMWeb. First, locate the Equipment Maintenance bar on the left side of the screen. Now, click the small arrow on the right side of the bar. Four options will be displayed, including Maintenance Due. Click on Maintenance Due. This screen will display listing any pieces of equipment which you have entered into EZMWeb. Click on one of the equipment names to display a list of the scheduled maintenance for that piece of equipment. The name will be highlighted in blue and the scheduled maintenance for that piece of equipment will be displayed below it. Now, choose a work order from the list of scheduled maintenance and mark the small circle for that work order by clicking in it. Now, locate the Assign To column. For the work order you want to assign, locate the corresponding box under the Assign To column and click on the arrow to make a list of users and service providers appear. Select your service provider from the list and then click on the Save button. And you may also want to ensure that the service provider you are selecting has their status set to active as we discussed earlier. Now that we have clicked on the Save button, the work order is assigned to that service provider and they will be able to view it when they log into EZMWeb. EZMaintenance has features that allow service providers via the Internet to invoice you for work which you have assigned them and allow you to invoice customers for work which you have performed for them. Here we will demonstrate how this works. The first type of invoicing we will discuss is invoicing from service providers to subscribers to EZMWeb. Invoices from service providers to subscribers always originate as a work assignment to the service provider from the subscriber to EZMWeb. To make the work order assignment, first the subscriber goes into the Maintenance Due section of EZMWeb. There, they find a piece of equipment which they have entered into the application, find a work order which they wish to be completed by the outside vendor or service provider, and then assign that work order to the service provider. After the subscriber to EZMWeb has made the work order assignment, the service provider or vendor can view the work order when they log into EZMWeb. They would browse to the Open Work Order section of the program where all of the work orders which are assigned to them are listed. After completing the work which they have been assigned, the work order is closed and the service provider or vendor can generate an invoice for that work and send it through EZMWeb to the EZMWeb subscriber. The service provider can add their own price markups and discounts to the different items on the invoice, as well as any applicable tax amounts, and then pass the invoice through EZMWeb to the main account subscriber for whom they are doing the work. Once the service provider has submitted the invoice to the main account subscriber to EZMWeb, then they can also view the invoice as well in the Open Invoices section of the application. If the main account subscriber to EZMWeb accepts the charges on the invoice, they can then pay the vendor or service provider for their work and close the invoice, which will then go into the list of closed invoices. Once the invoice is closed, that ends the process of a service provider or vendor invoicing a main account subscriber to EZMWeb. Invoices can also be passed from subscribers to customers who enter work requests for the subscriber to complete. This type of invoicing originates as a request by the customer for some maintenance to be performed. To do this, the customer logs into EZMWeb and browses to the New Request section of the program, where they submit their request for maintenance. Once the maintenance request has been submitted, the subscriber can log into EZMWeb and view the request as well as any other requests from customers. The EZMWeb subscriber can then easily create a work order from this request. Once the work order has been completed and the work order is closed, the EZMWeb subscriber can generate an invoice for the work and add their own price markups and discounts to the different items on the invoice, as well as any applicable tax amounts, and then pass the invoice to the customer for whom they are doing the work. Once the invoice has been submitted to the customer, then it is also available for them to print out for their records. And once the EZMWeb subscriber closes the invoice, that ends the process of the subscriber invoicing a customer directly for work. It is important to note that EZMWeb allows the EZMWeb subscriber to mark up invoices received from an outside service provider or vendor, create a new invoice from the EZMWeb subscriber, and pass that invoice along to the customer.